He Odyssey floated silently in the void of space, surrounded by distant stars and the faint glow of a nearby nebula. Captain Armin had finally found a place where they could pause. A hidden planet on the edge of explored space, rich with forests, rivers, and gentle hills. It was untouched, safe, and far from the hostile forces that had hunted them. He looked at Lyra, sleeping peacefully in her small bed, and felt a profound sense of relief. For weeks, Armin had been preparing for this moment. The planet offered everything they needed: shelter, food, water, and space to grow. But beyond survival, it offered something more: a chance to build a life, to form a home, and to nurture the bond they had forged through danger and trust. Humanity, he realized, thrived not just through exploration or knowledge, but through care, protection, and connection. Lyra woke early, her dark eyes sparkling with curiosity. She had explored the small clearing where Armin had set up their temporary shelter, and was already examining the unusual plants and creatures that moved quietly among the trees. "Father," she said softly, "planet. Beautiful." "Yes," Armin replied, smiling. "It is beautiful, and we can make it our home." She ran to him, small feet crunching over the soft grass, and hugged his leg. Armin bent down, wrapping his arms around her. He felt warmth spread through him, a mixture of relief, pride, and love. Together, they had survived danger, evaded enemies, and faced the unknown. Now, for the first time, they could simply live. The days that followed were filled with work and discovery. Armin taught Lyra how to explore safely, how to observe the environment, and how to find food and water. She learned quickly, her alien instincts complementing his human knowledge. She could sense shifts in the air, notice subtle changes in the plants, and detect hidden dangers. Her abilities amazed him. Humanity had brought ingenuity, strength, and courage to the galaxy. But Lyra reminded him that survival and understanding came from more than tools. It came from connection and awareness. They built a small shelter together, using materials from the forest and the ship's remaining resources. Armin showed Lyra how to weave simple mats, secure walls, and protect their home from the elements. She laughed as she worked, her joy contagious. In these moments, Armin saw a future he had never imagined: a quiet, peaceful life where exploration was not about stars, but about growth, learning, and shared experience. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon and painted the sky in shades of orange and pink, Armin and Lyra sat together on a small hill overlooking their new home. The air was cool and soft, carrying the scent of alien flowers and fresh water. "Father," Lyra said quietly, "we safe now?" Armin smiled, brushing a strand of hair from her face. "Yes, Lyra, we are safe, and as long as we stay together, we will always be safe." She leaned against him, small body warm against his side. "I'm happy," she whispered. Armin looked at the stars above, twinkling like distant promises. "So am I," he said. "So am I." Weeks turned into months. Lyra grew stronger and more confident, exploring the forests, learning about the creatures, and understanding the rhythms of the planet. Armin observed her with pride. She was brave, intelligent, and kind, a living reminder of the beauty and resilience of life. He taught her about human history, about the stars, and about the courage and ingenuity that had allowed humanity to thrive. She asked endless questions, her curiosity boundless. "Why humans explore?" she asked one afternoon, sitting by a clear river. "Because we want to understand," Armin replied. "To learn, to grow, to protect what we love, and sometimes to discover ourselves in the process." Lyra thought for a moment, then smiled. "We protect each other," she said. "Yes," Armin said, hugging her gently. "That is the most important thing." The bond between them deepened with every passing day. She called him father not just in words, but in trust, reliance, and shared experiences. He responded with guidance, protection, and unconditional care. Together, they formed a family that transcended species, language, and the vast emptiness of space. One day, while exploring the dense forest near their home, Armin detected a faint signal on the ship's sensors. He frowned. The hostile fleet that had once hunted them could still be out there. He realized they could not stay in one place forever if danger returned. "Father?" Lyra asked, sensing his concern. "Something wrong?" Armin shook his head, forcing a calm smile. "No, Lyra, for now, everything is fine. But we must always be ready. The universe can be unpredictable. That is why we learn, we prepare, and we stay together." She nodded, understanding more than her years should allow. "We together," she said. "Yes," he said. "Always together." This moment of quiet reflection reminded Armin of humanity's greatest strength. It was not technology, weapons, or even knowledge alone. It was courage, empathy, and the willingness to care for others in the face of uncertainty. Lyra had survived because of trust. He had survived because of courage. Together, they were stronger than any threat in the galaxy. Life on the planet became a rhythm. Days were spent exploring, gathering resources, and learning about each other. Nights were filled with stories, laughter, and quiet reflection under the stars. Armin taught Lyra about constellations, how humans use them to navigate the universe, and how stories could pass knowledge and hope through generations. She listened intently, eyes shining, absorbing every word. One night, as they sat by a small fire, Lyra leaned against him and whispered, "Father." "Thank you." "For what?" he asked softly. "For staying," she said. "For being my father." Armin hugged her close, feeling a warmth that no star or planet could provide. "I chose to stay," he said, "because you are important. Because this is family." Her small hands gripped his arm. "Family. Strong." "Yes," he said, looking at the stars. Stronger than anything else. As months passed, Armin noticed changes in himself. The endless pursuit of exploration had given way to something deeper, purpose. Lyra's presence reminded him why humanity had always ventured into the unknown. Not just to conquer or discover, but to protect, care, and connect. He realized that humans were strongest when they lifted others up, when they acted with courage and compassion, and when they created bonds that could survive even the cold vastness of space. Lyra, too, was growing. She had learned to navigate the Force, understand the creatures, and even communicate with some of them through gestures and subtle energy signals. She laughed more freely, her joy infectious. Her alien instincts, combined with human guidance, created a harmony that filled their new home with hope and life. One afternoon, as they explored a hidden grove with sparkling waterfalls, Lyra turned to Armin. "Father, one day we explore?" Armin smiled, thinking of the galaxy beyond their planet. "Yes, one day," he said. "But first, we live, we learn, we grow." She nodded, satisfied for now. "Together?" "Yes," he said. "Always together." The story of Armin and Lyra became a quiet testament to the human spirit. It was a story of survival, courage, and compassion. Humanity was not defined by technology or exploration alone, but by the ability to protect, nurture, and care for others, even in the face of danger. Lyra had reminded him of this truth, and together, they had built a life worth living. The hostile fleet that once threatened them had faded into distant memory, powerless against the strength of trust, intelligence, and courage. Armin knew that challenges might come again, but with Lyra by his side, he was ready. Together, they could face the unknown, thrive in any environment, and continue to explore not just the stars, but the possibilities of life, connection, and hope. At night, Armin often sat outside their shelter, watching the stars with Lyra on his lap. She leaned against him, small hands resting on his chest, and whispered questions about the universe. He answered patiently, knowing that each word, each lesson, strengthened not only her understanding, but the bond that had grown between them. In those moments, he understood the true meaning of family. It was not just blood or species. It was trust, care, protection, and love. It was the courage to stay when others might leave. It was the willingness to face danger together, to teach, to learn, and to grow. And above all, it was humanity's greatest power, the ability to rise above fear and uncertainty, to act with courage and empathy, and to create hope in even the darkest corners of the universe. The planet was quiet now, filled with life and potential. Lyra slept peacefully, dreaming of exploration, adventure, and the stars. Armin watched over her, filled with a sense of peace he had never known. Together, they had survived, thrived, and created something extraordinary. The journey had begun with danger, fear, and uncertainty, but it had led to trust, courage, and love. In the vastness of space, among the stars and silent planets, Captain Armin and Lyra had found what all explorers truly sought: a home, a family, and the enduring power of humanity. Together, they would face whatever came next. Together, they would thrive. And together, they would show the universe that humanity's greatest strength was not just in discovery, but in the courage to care, protect, and love. The small cave on the moon offered shelter, but Captain Armin knew it would not protect them forever. Outside, the cold light of the nearby sun reflected off jagged rocks, and the silence of space was broken only by the soft hum of the Odyssey. Lyra slept in the corner, wrapped in a blanket, her small form rising and falling with each breath. Armin watched over her, feeling the weight of responsibility settle deeper on his shoulders. Suddenly, the ship's sensors beeped urgently. Armin's stomach tightened. The approaching fleet was closing in faster than he had anticipated. They were not just trackers anymore, they were attackers. The hostile alien faction that had destroyed Lyra's home was here, and there would be no warning next time. Lyra, he whispered, shaking her gently. Wake up, we have to move. Her eyes fluttered open. Why with fear? They coming? She asked, her small voice trembling. Yes, Armin said firmly, but we will stay together. I won't let them hurt you. He guided her to the ship and prepared for immediate departure. Every movement was careful yet urgent. He checked the shields, engines, and weapons, running through protocols that could save their lives. Lyra watched, her eyes bright and attentive, learning quickly from his actions. The first attack came just as they lifted off the moon's surface. Bright beams of energy shot toward the Odyssey, striking the shields with explosive force. Armin's hands moved quickly, adjusting the ship's shields and firing countermeasures to deflect the beams. The tension in the cockpit was thick, and the hum of the ship's engines felt almost deafening. Hold on, Lyra, Armin said, gripping the controls tightly. We are going to get through this. The child pressed herself against the seat, fear evident, yet her trust in him never wavered. Father, she whispered. Yes, he said. I am here. I will not leave you. The attacking ships were fast and aggressive. They came in swarms, trying to surround the Odyssey. But Armin's experience and ingenuity allowed him to outmaneuver them. He dodged through asteroid belts, spun around gas clouds, and used the natural terrain of the moon clusters to break their formation. Each move required precision, courage, and careful planning. Despite the danger, Armin could not help but feel a surge of pride. Lyra watched him, her small hands gripping the edge of her seat, her eyes wide but shining with awe. Humanity, he realized, had a unique strength, the ability to adapt, to think, and to protect others even in the most impossible situations. Hours passed in tense maneuvers. The attackers were relentless, but Armin found openings, leading them on a chase that stretched across moons, asteroids, and nebulae. Lyra's trust never wavered, and that trust became his anchor. Finally, after a daring move through a narrow asteroid field, Armin shook the attackers off. They had not destroyed the fleet, but they had lost sight of the Odyssey. He powered down the engines, letting the ship drift in the shadows of a large asteroid. The silence that followed was almost deafening. Lyra exhaled shakily. We safe? She asked, her small voice uncertain. For now, Armin said. He placed a hand gently on her shoulder. We will find a safer place to rest, and we will be ready if they come again. She leaned against him, her small head resting on his arm. Thank you, Father, she whispered. The bond between them had grown stronger through the ordeal. Armin realized that this was what it meant to be human, not just to survive or explore, but to protect, to nurture, and to inspire trust in someone else. Lyra had given him a purpose beyond duty, and he would not fail her. In the days that followed, Armin worked tirelessly to secure their position. He repaired minor damages to the Odyssey, reinforced the shields, and upgraded their sensors to detect enemy ships from a greater distance. Lyra helped where she could, her intelligence and keen instincts proving invaluable. She could sense changes in the environment and detect subtle energy fluctuations, abilities that complemented Armin's experience and human ingenuity. One evening, as the stars shimmered outside the viewport, Lyra approached him quietly. "Father, why they want us?" she asked, her voice soft but serious. Armin paused, thinking carefully. "They fear what they do not understand," he said finally. "They want to control or destroy what they cannot. But you are not powerless. You are brave, and together we can face them." Her eyes widened. "We're strong." "Yes," he said firmly. "Stronger than they realize. And stronger together." The child smiled faintly, a mixture of hope and determination. Armin realized that this journey was teaching her as much as he was teaching her. She was learning about trust, courage, and the human spirit. And he was learning about resilience, empathy, and the power of connection across worlds. Their respite was short-lived. Sensors detected another fleet approaching, larger and faster than before. Armin knew this could be the decisive battle. He had to protect Lyra at all costs. "Lyra," he said, taking her small hands in his, "I need you to stay close. We are going to face them together." She nodded, eyes filled with trust and determination. "Stay," she said firmly. Armin guided the Odyssey into a dangerous maneuver, weaving through a field of massive asteroids. The enemy ships pursued relentlessly, firing energy beams and attempting to trap them. The cockpit was tense, every second a test of skill, courage, and survival. During the battle, Armin realized the advantage they had was not just technology, it was ingenuity and strategy. Using the asteroid field, he forced the enemy ships to collide with each other, damaging their formation. He deployed decoys and energy flares, confusing the attackers and buying precious time. Lyra watched, wide-eyed but calm, learning the meaning of courage and action. At one point, a blast struck near the cockpit, shaking the ship violently. Armin's hands moved instinctively, stabilizing the controls and adjusting the shields. Lyra clutched his arm, but did not cry. "We okay?" she asked. "Yes," he said, steadying the ship. "We are okay. Trust me." Finally, after hours of relentless pursuit and careful strategy, Armin managed to shake the attackers. They retreated, damaged and frustrated, unable to match the human ingenuity and Lyra's instinctive guidance. The Odyssey drifted into a hidden sector, safe for the moment, exhausted but relieved. Armin sat with Lyra, holding her small hands in his. "You were brave today," he said. "So?" "You," she replied, smiling faintly. "We together." "Yes," he said. "Always together." No matter what, for the first time, Armin allowed himself to reflect on what they had faced. The galaxy was full of dangers, yes, but it was also full of hope. Humanity's greatest strength, he realized, was not weapons or technology, it was the courage to protect, to love, and to fight for others. Lyra had reminded him of that truth, and he would carry it with him in every battle to come. They spent the night watching the stars through the viewport. Lyra leaned against him, her small body warm and trusting. Armin thought about the future, the dangers they would face, the worlds they might explore, and the bond that would guide them through every challenge. "Father," she whispered, "we." "Family?" "Yes," he said softly, pressing a hand to her head. "We are family, always." In the silence of space, amid the cold and the endless stars, Armin felt a strength he had never known. He had found something worth protecting, worth risking everything for, and worth fighting for against any enemy. Humanity's courage, ingenuity, and capacity for care were more than survival tools, they were a light in the darkness, a reason to face the unknown, and a force stronger than any enemy. The battle had tested them, but it had also forged their bond stronger than ever. Lyra's trust had shown him the power of connection, and he had proven that humanity's spirit could rise even in the most dangerous and distant reaches of the galaxy. And so, aboard the Odyssey, Captain Armin and Lyra prepared for the days ahead. Together, they would face danger, explore new worlds, and protect one another. Together, they were a living testament to humanity's greatest qualities: courage, empathy, and the will to protect what mattered most. The universe could be harsh and unforgiving, but Armin knew one truth: as long as he and Lyra stood together, nothing could break them. And in that truth, he found hope not just for themselves, but for all of humanity. The Odyssey drifted silently through space, its engines humming a soft, steady rhythm. Captain Armin stood in the observation deck, watching the stars stretch endlessly before them. The small alien child slept in the quarters he had prepared, her chest rising and falling in peaceful rhythm. But sleep would not last forever, and Armin knew the quiet was only temporary. He moved quietly to the child's room and peered in. She stirred, opening her large dark eyes, blinking up at him. "Morning," she said softly. Her voice was small but carried a strange warmth. "Good morning," Armin replied, smiling. "Did you sleep well?" The child nodded, then yawned, covering her mouth with a small hand. She looked around the room as if seeing it for the first time, touching the blankets, the mats, and the small toys Armin had placed for her. There was a sense of wonder in every movement, a curiosity that reminded him why humans had always explored the stars. "Do you remember your home?" Armin asked carefully, kneeling beside her. The child's smile faded slightly. She shook her head, eyes downcast. Then she whispered, "Gone. Everyone gone." Armin felt a pang of sorrow. He had encountered tragedy before, planets destroyed, civilizations lost, but it never felt this personal. One small life, left alone in the galaxy, trusting him completely. His resolve hardened. Whatever it took, he would protect her. "Don't worry," he said gently. "You're safe now. I'll take care of you." The child tilted her head and smiled faintly, the trust in her eyes making his heart ache with responsibility. "Father," she asked, testing the word again. "Yes," he said, careful with his tone. "If you want, I will be your father." Her smile widened, a small beam of hope shining from her face. For a moment, the galaxy outside felt a little less vast, a little less cold. As days passed aboard the Odyssey, Armin began teaching the child about the ship and life in space. She learned quickly, fascinated by the buttons, screens, and lights that controlled the vessel. Armin admired her curiosity and intelligence. She was not just a child. She was brilliant, resilient, and eager to understand the universe. He called her Lyra, after the constellation that shone brightly outside the ship's viewport. "You will be Lyra now," he said. "A new name for a new beginning." Lyra nodded, smiling shyly. "Lyra," she repeated, as if savoring the sound. It felt like a promise. During their lessons, Lyra revealed small details about her species. They were peaceful, intelligent, and deeply connected to the energy of their planet. She could sense fluctuations in the environment, feel changes in the air, and sometimes predict storms before they came. Armin was amazed. Humans had technology, knowledge, and strength. But Lyra's abilities were a reminder that the galaxy was full of mysteries, far beyond his understanding. One day, while showing her the ship's navigation systems, Lyra froze, her eyes wide. "They coming," she whispered. Her voice trembled, a hint of fear breaking through her usually calm demeanor. Armin frowned. "Who is coming?" "Bad ones. From the stars. Want us," Lyra said, pointing toward the viewport. "They took everyone." Armin's heart tightened. He had feared this day might come. Her people had been attacked before, and now their trackers had found them. He knew he had to act quickly. "Don't worry, Lyra," he said, placing a hand gently on her shoulder. "We'll stay ahead of them. They won't reach you." The days that followed were tense. Armin adjusted the ship's course, taking unpredictable routes through asteroid fields and nebulas to avoid detection. Lyra stayed close, watching him work, learning quickly how to navigate and understand the stars. Her fear was visible, but so was her trust. She believed in him completely, and that belief gave him strength. One evening, while they drifted near a gas giant, Lyra approached him quietly. "Father," she said, using the word with growing comfort. Why do they hate us? Armin paused. It was not a simple question. Sometimes, he began carefully, others fear what they do not understand. Sometimes they act without thinking about the consequences. But you are not alone. You are strong, and you are brave, and I will protect you, no matter what. Lyra's eyes filled with wonder and trust. She reached for his hand, gripping it tightly. I believe you, she whispered. The bond between them deepened every day. Armin realized that Lyra was teaching him as much as he was teaching her. He had always explored space for knowledge, discovery, and adventure. But now he explored for something more profound, the chance to protect, guide, and nurture another life. Humanity, he thought, was more than survival. It was compassion, empathy, and courage, the ability to care for others even when faced with danger. But danger was never far away. The Odyssey's sensors detected a faint but unmistakable signal tracking frequency. Unlike anything Armin had seen, it was low, almost cloaked, but it was there. Someone or something was following them. Lyra, he said quietly, kneeling beside her in the observation deck. We have to be careful. Someone is tracking us. She looked at him, eyes wide, but nodded. They bad, she whispered. Yes, he said. But we are stronger together. We will stay safe. Armin worked tirelessly to outmaneuver the trackers. He plotted courses through asteroid belts, hid within dense nebula clouds, and used every trick his experience and human ingenuity allowed. Lyra helped, learning quickly to operate the navigation systems. Together, they formed a team, united by trust and necessity. One night, as they hid within the shadows of a dark asteroid field, Lyra sat beside him quietly. Father, she said softly, do you miss your home? Armin thought about Earth, the blue planet that had been his home for so long. He thought about the friends, the cities, and the oceans. Sometimes, he admitted, but now, this is my home. With you, Lyra smiled faintly, leaning against him. Happy, she whispered. It was in these quiet moments, away from danger and chaos, that Armin understood the true meaning of family. It was not bound by species, language, or distance. It was built from trust, care, and the willingness to face the unknown together. Their peaceful moments were interrupted one morning by a sudden alarm. The ship's sensors picked up multiple ships approaching at high speed. Armin's heart raced. These were not exploration vessels. They were armed, fast, and relentless. Lyra, he said urgently, taking her hand. We have to move. They found us. She nodded, eyes wide with fear but filled with trust. Go, fast. Yes, he said firmly. Hold on to me. The Odyssey lurched forward, engines roaring as it navigated through the asteroid field at top speed. The pursuing ships followed, firing beams that missed by inches as Armin twisted and turned through the maze of rocks. Lyra held onto him tightly, her small hands gripping his arm. Stay calm, he said, keeping his voice steady. We can do this, together. For hours, they dodged and maneuvered, the tension building with every passing second. Armin's mind worked tirelessly, predicting their pursuers' moves, finding paths that were nearly impossible to navigate. Lyra watched, learning, her eyes wide but her trust unwavering. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, they emerged from the asteroid field and found a hidden cave on a nearby moon. It was small and dark, but it offered protection. Armin powered down the engines and let the silence settle. Lyra looked at him, fear still present but fading. Safe now? She asked softly. For now, he said, smiling faintly. But we will stay ready. We have each other, and that is our strength. As she drifted to sleep, Armin sat outside the cave, watching the stars. He thought about what had brought them here and what lay ahead. Danger was real, but so was hope. Lyra's trust had shown him a side of humanity he had sometimes forgotten: the courage to protect, the ability to love, and the resilience to face the unknown with strength and determination. In the vast emptiness of space, among the cold stars and silent planets, Armin felt warmth he had never known. He had found something worth protecting, worth risking everything for. And he knew that, no matter what came next, he and Lyra would face it together. The bond between them was unbreakable. A reminder that humanity's greatest strength was not just technology or exploration, but the courage to care for others, even in the darkest corners of the galaxy. And so, aboard the Odyssey, Captain Armin and Lyra prepared for the challenges ahead. Together, they were stronger. Together, they were family. And together, they would survive, thrive, and discover the true meaning of humanity in the stars. The Starship Odyssey glided silently through the dark stretches of space. Captain Armin sat in the pilot's seat, eyes fixed on the navigation screens. He had been exploring the outer sectors of the galaxy for months, documenting planets that might one day support human life. Most were empty, lifeless, or harsh beyond imagination. But today, the readings were different. A faint energy signature appeared on the scanners, unlike anything he had encountered before. It pulsed gently, almost like a heartbeat. Curiosity drew him closer. The planet below was covered in thick forests of glowing green plants, and its surface shimmered under the light of a distant sun. Something about it felt alive. Armin adjusted the ship's landing gear and descended slowly. As the Odyssey touched the ground, the soft hum of engines faded, leaving only the whisper of the wind through strange, enormous trees. The air smelled fresh and clean, carrying the faint sweetness of alien flowers. He stepped onto the surface, boots pressing into soft moss that glowed faintly underfoot. He walked carefully, scanning for signs of life. Most of the forest seemed empty, but the energy signature on his scanner grew stronger. He moved toward it, pushing aside thick vines. That's when he saw her, a small alien child. Sitting on a moss-covered rock. She looked no older than 6 years in human terms. Her skin was pale with a soft, natural beauty. Her eyes were wide and dark, filled with curiosity and fear. Her hair shimmered faintly in the sunlight, falling in gentle waves over her shoulders. She watched Armin silently, tilting her head as if trying to understand him. Armin froze for a moment. He had seen many alien species during his travels, but nothing like this. There was something almost human about her. Her gestures, the tilt of her head, the nervous sway of her small body, it all felt familiar. "Hello," Armin said gently, raising a hand. The child flinched but didn't run. He took another step closer, careful not to scare her. "Are you alone?" he asked softly. The child hesitated, then nodded. A small, almost broken sound escaped her lips. Armin didn't understand the language, but he could sense her fear. She looked around nervously, as if expecting something or someone to appear. The ship's AI spoke quietly in his earpiece. "Warning. Unknown life form detected. Unknown potential threat. Caution advised." Armin ignored it. There was no time to be cautious when someone or something was clearly in danger. "It's okay," he said, kneeling to appear smaller. "I won't hurt you." The child's eyes filled with tears. Then, with a soft, trembling voice, she asked words that pierced Armin's heart. "Will you be my father?" He blinked in surprise. The words were clear, simple, and yet impossible. How could a child he just met ask something so profound? He didn't know the language fully, but the tone and meaning were undeniable. She wanted him to care for her. She wanted protection. Armin swallowed hard. His mind raced. He had spent his life exploring stars and planets, but he had never prepared for this, never imagined finding someone so small and vulnerable in the vast emptiness of space. His first instinct was duty, to study, to report, to continue his mission. But another instinct deeper, human, pulled him closer. Compassion, protection, love. "Don't worry," he said quietly. "I'll protect you." The child's eyes widened, hope replacing fear. She took a tentative step toward him, then another, until she stood at his knees. Armin reached out gently, letting her take his hand. Her skin was soft and warm, strangely familiar, almost like a human child's. "Where's your home?" he asked, keeping his voice calm. The child looked down, then up again. Her eyes shimmered with tears and something else, sadness. "Memory, loss." She pointed toward the horizon, then shook her head. It was clear her home was gone. Armin's heart ached. He had seen destruction before, on planets scarred by war or neglect. But this was different. This was personal, intimate. One small life, alone, frightened. Looking to him for guidance, he glanced at the scanner readings. The energy signature that had drawn him here was connected to her, but there were also faint signal signs of predators or other beings nearby. Time was short. "I'll take you with me," Armin said finally. "You can stay on my ship. You'll be safe there." The child's eyes lit up. She reached for him again, and this time, there was trust in her movements. She followed him as he led her back to the Odyssey. Every step they took, Armin felt the weight of responsibility settle on his shoulders. This was no longer a simple mission. He was no longer just a captain exploring planets, he was a protector. A guardian. Back on the ship, Armin prepared a small room for the child. He cleaned it, placed soft mats on the floor, and added some blankets. The child explored quietly, touching everything with wonder. She paused by the viewport, staring at the stars outside. "Beautiful," she whispered, pointing at the distant planets. "Yes," Armin said, smiling. "Space is beautiful, and it's safe here, with me." She turned to him, eyes wide, and repeated softly, "Will you be my father?" Armin knelt beside her again. He didn't have a ready answer. He wasn't a father. He wasn't sure if he could be. But when he looked into her eyes, he realized something profound. Humanity was more than exploration, more than survival. It was compassion. It was the courage to care for others, even in the coldest reaches of space. "I'll stay," he said quietly, touching her small hand. "I'll stay." The child smiled, a small, hopeful smile that lit up her entire face. She leaned against him, resting her head on his shoulder. Armin felt a warmth he hadn't known. He needed a sense of purpose beyond maps, missions, and stars. The ship's AI hummed softly. Unknown life forms successfully secured. Probability of emotional attachment high. Armin chuckled softly. "Yes, I suppose so." As the Odyssey lifted off the planet, the child pressed her small face against the viewport, watching the forest shrink beneath them. For the first time in weeks, Armin felt at peace. He wasn't just exploring new worlds anymore, he was building a life, protecting a future, and discovering something even greater than the stars. The capacity of the human heart. Night fell outside. The ship and the child fell asleep in the small room Armin had prepared. He sat outside the doorway, watching over her, thinking about the days ahead. There would be challenges, there would be dangers, but there would also be connection, laughter, and the quiet moments of trust and care that made life worth living. For the first time, Armin realized that exploration wasn't just about discovering new worlds. It was about discovering new relationships, new bonds, and the strength of humanity in its purest form. He had found something unexpected in the vastness of space, a child who needed him, and in return, had given him a reason to stay. As the stars stretched endlessly before them, Armin whispered, more to himself than anyone else, "We'll face whatever comes together." And the child, still asleep, seemed to smile, even in dreams, as if she understood perfectly. The journey of protection, trust, and discovery had begun. Humanity's courage and compassion would guide them through the unknown, one small step at a time.